Okay, holding in Sanhedrin, we're on Daf Lamed Bet Amud Bet. We're about 3 lines down on the wide lines in the English art scroll. We're on 32B-3. The left side, first new paragraph. Um, we dealt in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that when it comes to capital punishment cases, you start off the proceedings of the case, l'zchut, and the benefit of the one who's guilty. The guy who's in the court case. You started off with his the way for him to get out. Um, that's what the Mishnah said. So now we want to know, how is that done? What exactly do you say to get him out? Okay, so let's see what the Gemara starts off. Hey, Amrinan, what do we say in capital cases in order to get him out? Not to get him in trouble, to start off l'schut, to start off in a way in his favor. What exactly are we saying? And who are we saying it to? So I'm Rabbi Huda. I'm reading Lahu. This is what we say. Mi Yemar Kit Kamaritu. Who is it to say that it happened as you said it? Okay, so what? So he's saying, we're saying it to the witnesses. So the two witnesses come, and say, we saw this guy kill somebody, or this guy be mahal shabbat, whatever he did to be hayab mita. And now the 3 judges, or the 23 judges, right, 23 judges, capital punishment, turn to these two witnesses and say, and who says it's like you? Who says it's like you? Now, just think about it for a second. It's not just random people that are judges. Like, imagine for yourself, like, this is Chacham Yosef, this is, Rav Belsky, or Chaim Kanevsky. These are great rabbis that are sitting on the court. Now, if they tell you, who is that that's like you, most people at this point, if it's such a great rabbi is doubting my statement, I'm just going to keep quiet. That's the Gemara's question. I'm going to when the judges, these great people who are sitting in court, if they tell the witnesses, who said it like you, the witnesses are going to get scared and they're going to retract. They're not going to talk. They're going to take it back, everything they said. We don't want that to happen. We need the truth to come out, right? So Gemara first says, okay, let them be muzzled, let them not talk, let them take back their words. Milotanya didn't we learn? When it comes to certain cases, we take the witnesses from one place to another when we ask them questions. We start asking them here, and then we tell them, oh no, we need to take you to a different place to ask a question, then another place, hoping that they'll come to retract what they said, right? So you see, we do that. We do make them retract what they say, take back what they said. So why can't we do this here? Gemara says you can't compare the two processes. Mida. There, in the case of the Braita, the witnesses are indirectly dissuaded, meaning you're taking them from room to room. You're not telling them don't talk, or you're telling them what you're saying is not true, or we don't believe you. None of that. We're just taking them from room to room. So if they take back what they're saying, it's hard to keep the full story straight. So, once they become confused, they'll take back their full story. So then they'll do that. But here, you're not doing it indirectly. You're directly saying we don't believe you, and we don't want to do that. So therefore, it cannot be the way Rabbi Yehuda wanted to learn. That is a zechut that we start off by saying who we don't believe you witnesses. That's not the zechut. Ula says, no, this is what we tell them. Do you have witnesses to make them hazama witnesses? Okay, Adam Zayman. So Ula says, we turn to the defendant and we tell him, do you have other witnesses who can turn these witnesses into Adam Zayman? Adam Zayman, you become these false witnesses become Adam Zayman when 2 other witnesses can come and say that these 2 people couldn't have seen what they saw on the day that they say they saw it, because they were with us in Atlantic City, and this happened in Monroe or Lakewood, whatever. So therefore, they discredit them by saying that they weren't there that day, they were with us somewhere else. So we asked the defendant, do you have anybody who can say that these two Adam were saying that you're Chayamita? Do you have other Adam that can say that they're Adam Zayim? Rabbi said, 1 second. Are you going to start off with a zechut for one person to get him off the hook, but get someone else in trouble? So what's going to happen when you have Adam Zayim? The punishment is they get punished the way they wanted to get the other guy in trouble. So if they wanted to get this guy killed, they're going to get killed. So you're trying to find a way out for one guy, and meanwhile, you're potentially creating a place to get two people killed. The Gemara answers, not true. No one's going to get killed. You're saying they're going to become Eidim Zayim and they're going to have to get killed. That's not true. Why? Because Eidim Zayim only happen after it's Nigmar Din. Meaning, if the court case ended, Gmar Din, they said this person is Chayab Mita, and now other witnesses come and make them Eidim Zayim, at this point, where the verdict was already there, and then you made the witnesses Eidim Zayim, then they get punished. But if they become Eidim Zayim before Nigmar Hadin, before the verdict was issued, then you don't punish them the way they try to punish someone else. You only do that if it was a Gmar Din. So here we tell the guy, do you have Eidim Zayim? Do you have any Eidim to make them Eidim Zayim? We're telling him while the case is still going on, not at the end of the case. So they wouldn't get in trouble. So you can start off with that zechut. Achiyamina. So at 32B-4, Achiyamina, Rabbi explains, you're right. The way you set up the case right now, that you're asking for Eidim Zayim while the case is still going on, you're right, they're not going to get in trouble. They're not going to get killed. But let's say he didn't bring other witnesses until after this Nigmar Hadin. Then it would cause two people to die. Therefore, it cannot be, you'll open with this zechut, looking for Eidim Zayim, which has still the potential for someone else to get killed. Ela Amar Rabbi. Rabbi says, you know what we ask him for? We ask him, Yesh l'cha Edom lahach chishan. We ask him, do you have any witnesses to contradict him? Okay. Contradict the other witnesses. Okay. The only time the witnesses can get punished for what they want to do to someone else, that's only if you say they were with you or they were with them somewhere else that day. But if you give any other contradictory statements to what they're saying, all what happens is both testimonies are cancel each other out. So, for example, Reuben and Shimon came and said, we saw Levi kill Yehuda, right? And he killed him like this, on this day, and that day, and this way. And they say they killed him on Tuesday. Comes to other Eidim, Yosef and Binyamin. Yosef and Binyamin come. And they saw Levi, we say, Yehuda's not dead. We saw him on Thursday. He was alive and well in the marketplace. So what happens? Now you have contradictory statements. Reuben and Shimon say Levi killed Yehuda. And then come Yosef and Binyamin and say Yehuda's still alive. So what happens in this case? The testimony gets canceled out, and no one gets killed for it. Okay, it's just the canceling out of testimony. That's how you start off. Rav Kahana says, you know what we tell them? We tell the witnesses, "Medibrechem nizdaka ploni." By your words, but what you're saying, it seems to be that this man is going to get freed. So we tell the witnesses, everything you said and proving his guilt is going to lead for him to get free. A little hard to understand that. They just told you they saw him kill, and you're saying he's going to go free. So you have to remember, there's a portion explain, you have to remember a din, a certain rule that we have, that if every judge says guilty, or every judge says this guy's guilty, then we don't kill the person. Right, because then we say it wasn't a true judgment. The judges are telling this man, by your words, this man seems to he's going to go all free. Meaning, you're giving such a good testimony to make him in trouble that every judge of us is going to say he's guilty, and as such, he might come out free. And that would be problematic, right? If he deserves that sentence, he deserves that sentence. So that's the zechut we start off with. By Rava, and this is halacha l'maisa. By Rava, the Amr Tarvayu, Amrinon lay. We tell the accused, Ilo kitalt loy titchal. You didn't kill anybody. You have nothing to be afraid of. That's the zechut we start off. We start off with the zechut. We tell it to the defendant, and we tell him, if you didn't actually do this crime, you have nothing to be afraid of. Rav Ashi says, we tell everybody there, right? Anyone who knows the zechut for him should come and say on his behalf, the zechut, this so we can get him out. That's Rav Ashi. Pshat. Where it says, we have a brighter that goes like a Ba'i Rabbi says, we have about the Parshat Sotah. You bring the Sotah to the Beit HaMikdash. It says, we tell her, Im lo shechav ish otach, v'im lo satit. If no man lay with you and you didn't stray from the path and you're okay, then you have nothing to worry about. Mikan shekotim b'dei nifashot, tekilal is good. Man, we derive the capital cases open the statements for acquittal by telling them, if you didn't do it, you got nothing to worry about. Then you would be innocent and found innocent. Okay, so that's the way we start off the skut when it comes to dinei nifashot cases. We tell them, if you didn't do it, you have nothing to worry about. Right, now we're going to move to the next topic. And okay, so I'm going to say it out loud first. The issue the next Gemara is going to be dealing with. The Gemara is going to be three answers to this issue, and we're going to deal with all three. And after that, we'll call it a day. So it's a little complicated. So let's take it just step by step. Number one, our Mishnah said, Masechet Sanhedrin said, that if judges made a mistake in judgment in monetary cases, you can continue to bring back the case afterwards. So if, for example, we had three judges, and there was a case between Reuven and Shimon, and they told Reuven, you have to pay Shimon the $50,000, and Reuven pays it. Then Reuven finds Adam to prove that he was innocent, he didn't owe the money. So the court, according to our Mishnah, you can bring it back, the case, and they can retry the case. You can retry the case, and you can get the money back from one to the other. Now, the Gemara is going to start off. There's a Mishnah in Masechet Bechorot that says over there, no, that's not the way it's done. Rather, the court case, the verdict remains. They said, I have to give him $50,000. The $50,000 remains with the other guy. Reuven gave the money to Shimon. It remains with Shimon. Now that they found out it was a mistake, the judges have to pay Reuven, who was out, $50,000. That's the Mishnah and Masechet Bechorot. So we have a machloket. We have a stira. We have a contradiction between two Mishnayot. One Mishnah says you can go back and return the court case, and you can get the money back returned. The other Mishnah says no, the money stays where it is. You can't review the court. You can't go back to the court case, and instead the judges have to pay the person who lost the money. So, and now we're going to have to deal with how do we reconcile these two Mishnayot. So let's take a look inside. Dini mamonot machzirin. Mishnah said you can return to monetary cases, or minhu, but contrasted to a Mishnah and Bechorot. Danit hadin. If they judge the case, zikat hayav, chiyav et hazakai. You declare the liable not liable. It's the person who is free. You told him to pay. Chiyav et hazakai, and both ways. If he was liable, you told him he's free. And if he's free, you told him he's liable. Or timer tatahor, or tiher tatameh. Or if you said something is tameh when it was tahor, or it was tar when it was tamei, and then he mixed it up with something else. Now he lost a lot of money with all those things. Masha asa asui bishalim. Whatever he did, and the judge has to pay back. So it's quite clear that the judgment stands, and the judges have to pay back. In our Mishnah, no. Our Mishnah says you can go and bring the court case back. So what is the difference? So here's the first answer, which is later going to be qualified. Let's just take a look at the first answer in its infancy. Amar Rav Yosef loy kasha kan b'mumcha kan b'she'eino mumcha. Now we're going to learn this like Rashi on the page. We're not going to learn it like the Rif. The Rif has a whole different shot in this Gemara. But we're going to learn this Gemara according to Rashi. Rashi says as follows. Says, it depends what type of judge we're dealing with. We have an expert judge or a non-expert judge. If you have an expert judge, so now that he comes and says he made a mistake, so you know what? We're going to say, since he's an expert, we're going to believe that he's saying now is correct and what he said before was not correct. Because he's an expert. So the fact that he realized a mistake and now he's saying it was a mistake and now he's correcting it, he is correct and he is believed. Therefore, in such a case, you can return the court case. You can bring the court case back and you can get the money returned back. Because we are believing the mumcha, the expert. The Mishnah and Bechorot, though, Mishnah and Bechorot, talking about a non-expert judge. The way Rashi explains it is that we say, you're saying you made a mistake the first time, and now you're correcting it, but you're not an expert. Maybe now you're making a mistake, and before you were right. Therefore, you shouldn't return the court case. Therefore, Mishnah Bechorot says the judgment stands, and now the judge, since he made a mistake, he has to pay it. That's the differentiation. Whether it's a mumcha, an expert versus a non-expert judge. An expert judge, we're going to believe him and say that he made a mistake, and yes, now you're going back and changing it. That's so you can take the money back. And if it's a non-expert judge, we're going to tell him we don't believe that we're not going to believe that you made a mistake. Maybe before you were right. Now you're making a mistake. Therefore, the money stays with who it stays, and the judges have to compensate the person who had a loss. Now, the Gemara objects to this answer because the Mishnah Bechorot continues. The Mishnah Bechorot that says the judge has to pay, then it says, Uvemumcha machzirin. The Gemara says, and the mumcha, do we return it? Like Ketani, it says by that Mishnah, Im haya mumche levedin patur min l'shalem. The Mishnah Bechorot says he has to pay back, but if he was a mumcha with betin, if he was an expert known to the courts, then he's patur from paying back, which implies the court case, the verdict stays as is, and the judge doesn't have to pay back because it's a mumcha l'rabim. So Rav Yosef, you wanted to say when it's a mumcha, that's where you can go and return the case. And in the Mishnah Bechorot, it says the mumcha is just patur, not that you return the case. So comes Rav Nachman and he qualifies the answer, and he says you're right. It depends when. Not all mumchas can return a case. And it can't be the own mumcha, the same guy himself. It has to be someone else, someone greater and bigger. Rav Nachman, kan sheyesh gadol hemeno b'chokhmah u'minyan, kan she'en gadol hemeno b'chokhmah u'minyan. It all depends if there's another expert judge who is greater in both age and in wisdom. If that's the case, then you couldn't get the case returned. So our Mishnah here says you can return the case. He's talking about a case where a mumcha, where the court case was done, and a mumcha did a court case, right? And now you have another mumcha who is greater and says there's a mistake, he can go back and retry it. But if it wasn't a greater person there, then if it was a mumcha who tried the case, the verdict stands, and he doesn't have to pay because he's a mumcha abated. And if it was a non-expert to try the case, and there's no one greater, no mumcha that can review and retract the case, then he will have to pay because he's a non-expert judge who shouldn't have taken it into his hands, should have left it for the experts, and now no one else can change it. Now he's going to have to pay back. So that's the first way to differentiate between the Mishnah here and Mishnah Bechorot, is whether you have another greater judge that can go back and look over the case. Okay, so that's answer number one. Now we're going to come to answer number two. Rav Sheshet Amar. Kan shita'a b'dvar Mishnah, kan shita'a b'shikul hada'at. He says, it depends on what they made a mistake. One of our Mishnayot that says you can go back, that's talking where he made a mistake in a Mishnah. Meaning it's a clear halacha. The halacha goes a certain way. Everybody knows it. It's written everywhere. And the judge ruled incorrectly. Such a case, you can go back and return. You can go back and retract the case. You can review the case. You can retry the case because the judge made a mistake in a clear halacha. However, if you made a mistake in deliberating, it's not a clear halacha anywhere, and he made a mistake in his logic of getting to the answer, in such a case, we don't return it. It stays where it is. So the Mishnah Bechorot that says we don't return, the judge has to pay. That's when he made a mistake, which is his final judgment. But when he made a mistake in the law, then that's our Mishnah that says you can go back and return it. When you make a mistake in the Mishnah, in clear halacha, then you can go back and retry the case. But if you made a mistake in deliberating the judgment, then it does not go back. The verdict sticks, and he'll have to pay back on his own. Ravina asks Ravashi, Ravashi, you're saying, right, if they made a mistake in the Mishnah. What about they made a mistake, not in the Mishnah, but in the Braita of Rabbi Hiya, Rabbi Oshia? Okay, just really quick, spend 30 seconds. Mishnayot is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who took Tanaic statements and he put them together and made Mishnayot. And they're very authoritative statements, and they become more authoritative once he made them into the Mishnah. There exist other Tanaic statements, Tanaim of the rabbis of the Mishnah period, that are not in the Mishnah, but is a called Braitot. The Tosefta, Braitot, we keep saying Braita, Tosefta, Tosefta. So there was a group of Tanaic statements that were put together by Rabbi Hiya, by Rabbi Oshaya. So now the question is, if the judge made a mistake in these Braitot, which are less authoritative than the Mishnah, but yet well known, is that considered a mistake in clear halacha, and you can retry the case, or is it not? So Amr Ain. So Rashi said yes, it's considered clear halacha. I feel the Rav Shmuel. What about they made a mistake in the discussions of Rav and Shmuel, who are later rabbis, right? Are they considered made a mistake in their holdings? Is that considered a mistake in clear halacha? Amr Ain. Rashi said yes, it is. You would have to retry the case. What about between me and you? Rav Ashi saying to Ravina. Ravina and Rav Ashi are the last of the right? They will put together, ones who put together the Gemara. And they say, what about us? If they made a mistake in our teachings, is that considered a mistake in clear halacha? And again, it says to him, are we reed cutters in the swamp? Basically, are we chopped liver? Are we nothing that people are not listening to our halachot? No, they made a mistake in our clear halachot, then you would also be able to retract the verdict because they made a mistake in a clear halacha. Now, if you're going to ask, why can't other Amoraim who were at the time of Ravina Rashi argue with them? Truth is, they could argue with them. They don't have to hold Ravina Rashi. They're the same level. However, what they meant was if they're agreeing in our halacha, but they're making a mistake, I mean, they agree to what we're saying, but they're making a mistake in applying it, then that's considered making a mistake in a clear halacha. If they were using our judgment and our understanding, and then they made a mistake in it, that's considered making a mistake in clear halacha. But they do have, the other Amoraim do have a right to argue with another Amora. So now the Gemara wants to know what's a mistake in shikul hadat, which until now I said was deliberating judgment. What does this mean? They're going to try to know, trade the moroi, the pli yahadon. He says, you know what type of cases is? It's when we have a machloket in halacha between some Tanaim or some Amoraim, and the halacha was never set clear by either of them. However, the judges and the rabbis, they seem to be going with one of the opinions over the other. So meaning there's no clear halacha, but everyone seems to be doing it this way, and that's what they seem to be holding, and that's the way all the courts seem to be ruling. And he ruled otherwise. He ruled otherwise. The sugya the shemata azal kiidach. He goes and he rules the other way. He thinks there's no clear halacha which way it really goes. However, most poskim, most dayanim are going this way, but he went the other way. Such a case, we say the verdict stands. Why? He didn't make a mistake in clear halacha. The halacha is right, even according to the way he went. It's just not the way most poskim go. But since the halacha wasn't a clear mistake, as such, the matter would stand. That's the way he explains the machloket of the difference between the two mishnayos. Our mishnah says you can go back and retry the case. It's talking when they made a mistake in a clear halacha. The mishnah Bechorot that says you can't go back. That's if he only made a mistake in weighing the opinions, and he went with one opinion over the other, which the other opinion is the mainstream opinion. He went to the other side. As such, the verdict will stand, and they would have to pay it back instead. Now, the Gemara is going to try to argue with this explanation. Master beporo shel beit Menachem shnit lo ha'em shalo ve'echil Rav Tafel l'kolavim v'maisel l'chachavim b'yavne v'hitiro she'amar toidet haroiv ein poro v'chazir yotzei Alexandria shel mitzayim elim kein choytchin ha'em shelo kedei shelo yitel. Okay. The Rav Huna is challenging Rav Sheshet's shot from the following Mishnah. There's a story that happened. A person had a cow, and the cow was missing a womb. So we know that if animals are missing certain parts, it can be considered a terefa. And if they're considered a terefa, then they're not kosher, right? They're going to die within the year. They're considered a terefa, and they can't be eaten. So they came to the Tafel and they said, my cow is missing a womb. So Tafel said, it's a terefa, feed it to the dogs. That's halacha. Then they fed it to the dogs. And then what happens? They went to Yavne, where the great yeshiva was, and they asked them the question. And they said, no, the animal was good. They would say, Turah, it's kosher animal, you can shecht it and eat it. Why? Because they said we learned from Todos. There was a doctor Todos, very expert doctor. He told them the reason why your cows don't have wombs is because they come from Alexandria. And in Egypt and Alexandria, they had a very strong market on very high quality cows and pigs. But they wanted to keep the breed and the stock to themselves, to keep a monopoly on the market. So what they did is whenever they let out a female cow or pig, they took out the womb, so no one could, you can't take a male from Alexandria and a female and now make your own pigs or cows, and now they won't make money. So they sold you a cow without a womb, therefore she can never give birth, and therefore the animals, these strong quality animals, will remain Egypt's, Alexandria's market advantage. And therefore they don't have, and therefore they're kosher. Rav Tarfon heard this, that he made a huge mistake because he told him to feed the cow to the dogs. made him lose the value of the cow. He said, um, about himself, my donkey is gone, meaning I have to sell my car to pay them back. He is a judge who made a mistake, made them lose the value of a cow, which would be worth thousands of dollars, right? And now I'm gonna have to pay them back using my donkey. I'm gonna be a Kiva. Kiva came and said to him, "No, you don't have to pay them back." Potter, I thought, Rabbi Kiva came and said, "No, you're Potter. The reason why you're Potter is because you're a mumchal rabbin. You're an expert that people know. That you're an expert, therefore you're Potter." Rashi, an earlier Rashi, if you can go back to this Rashi, Potter milashalim. If you're looking in the article, it's on the first of the narrow lines from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the top. I believe it's a note also it's a note in the art scroll. I'm trying to remember. Okay, note 6 in the previous page, 33A1. Rashi here explains that the expert is exempt from making restitution for his error because this rare occurrence of an error on his part, as he's an expert, he doesn't make a lot of errors, right, must be attributed to the loser's ill luck rather to any fault of the part of the expert. So what we're saying is the Momcha shouldn't have made a mistake. The reason why he made a mistake and this person lost out because this person has bad luck and he should have lost the money. So that's what Rabbi Akiva was telling him. Rabbi Akiva, because you're in Momcha and you don't make mistakes. So the fact that a mistake happened must be this person has ill luck and therefore he's out a cow and you are Potter. Okay. So that's what Humna brought to argue with Rav Sheshes. But where's the argument? Gemara brings the argument out. Ve'ita. Now, if you're saying, remember, what was Rav Sheshes' answer? Ephraim, you had a question before we go into the next part?
Yes, hi. So ideally, yes, I do understand the fact that if I was supposed to lose somewhere, so based on Rabbi Akiva's explanation, he lost it here because of bad luck, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it depends if you are the one to cause that loss to him. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a reason for that.
Right. So that's what we're saying. If the person was a non-expert judge and he caused the loss, then he has to pay back. That's what we said. That's the Mishnah and Bukhari, because he's a non-expert judge, he took into hands things that aren't his and he caused that damage. But we're saying an expert judge should not have caused that damage because he's an expert. It should never have happened. But the fact that it did happen, it must be that it was his ill luck. That's the way Rashi explained. I hear your part. He still caused him to do it. We're going to see, and that's actually going to be further on. If you hang on for a moment, you're going to see even bigger chiddush of why the judge should be potter. So let's take a look. Now, remember, Rav Sheshet said that the resolution of the two Mishnayot was as follows. Our Mishnah says that you can return the case. It's when he made a mistake in a clear halacha. And Mishnah said that you cannot return the case, and rather the judge has to pay for the damages. That's when he made a mistake in weighing opinions, but not in clear halacha. Now this is where this picks up. Rabbi Kiva should have told him, you made a mistake in a Dvar Mishnah. Now, even though Rabbi Tarfon lived before Rabbi Yehuda Hanafi, before Mishnayot existed, and though it says in the Gemara here that Todos Harofa, the doctor said that these cows came without wombs from Alexandria because they wanted to keep the market. However, all that is true, but Mishnayot statements already existed way before Rabbi Yehuda Hanafi. Rabbi Yehuda Hanafi compiled them and put them together. And this Mishnah was created based on the information from Todos. And so it existed as a clear halacha at this time. So Rabbi Kiva should have told him, you made a mistake in clear halacha. And since it's a mistake in clear halacha, you don't have to pay back. Rather, you could just return to the case and review the case. Okay? That's what we were saying. If you have a mistake in clear halacha, you don't have to pay back. Rather, you come back to the case and you retry it. So that's what Rabbi Kiva should have said. Why do Akiva say he's potter from paying because there's a mumchal rabbi? The Gemara answers, Chada the oid ka'amr. Akiva is saying, no, there's one reason and there's another reason. Chada the Torah of our Mishnah Atta. The Torah of our Mishnah Chayzer. Really, there's two reasons. One reason is you made a mistake in clear halacha. And the other one, and therefore you can return the case. The oid, inami b'shikol hadatayid. And if it was a second reason, and if it was a mistake in weighing the opinion, then mumchal rabim ato, mumchal rabim potter min l'shalom. So Akiva was telling him, there's two reasons why you're potter. A, it was a mistake in clear halacha, therefore you just have to retract the verdict. And even if it wasn't a mistake in clear halacha, you're a expert judge and you would be potter. Amro Nachum Bar Yitzchak l'Rava, my komoter of humna l'Rav Sheshet b'Para. Para arei achil v'klavim b'leitz to the t'other. What do you mean? What are you saying right now that he could have told him that it was a mistake in clear halacha, therefore I can change the verdict? But he fed it to the cows. The guy fed it to the cows. There's nothing to return here. He cannot come and say, oh, by the way, the cow's kosher. And you can eat it. Eat it. I already fed it to the cows. It's all over. So, you have to understand. If you want to say he made a mistake in a Mishnah clear halacha, you don't go back, even though we say we do go back. Let's say we would hold you don't go back. Alma Kamdina. Then we'd say the halacha stands. And what happened. That's why Rabbi Tarfon was scared because what happened, and he caused the damages, and the halacha stood, and therefore he was scared he had to pay. The Kamer Lake, therefore, he told me you're a mumcha, you're pot. But if you say you made a mistake in clear halacha and it retracts the case, so Rabbi Akiva is telling him as follows. Rabbi Tarfon, even if it's true that you retract the case when you made a mistake in clear halacha, you still don't have to pay. Even though they fed the cow already to the dogs. Why? Let's say they didn't feed the cow to the dogs yet. So here's the cow. Tarfon comes and says, it's a terefa, feed it to the cow. They didn't touch it, just left it. Then Tarfon comes and says, oh, made a mistake, clear halacha. It's actually kosher. Okay, the cow's here, the cow's here. Now, Rabbi Tarfon comes and says, this cow is a terefa, feed it to the dogs. They feed it to the dogs. It's no longer here. Now Rabbi Tarfon comes and says it's kosher. It's no longer here. Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva is saying, you didn't take it to the dogs. They did it themselves. All you told them was not kosher, and then you told them it's kosher. So you retracted your verdict. You went back on what you said. You fixed up your part. What they did with it, they did with it. Not you. Therefore, it's only a grumma, right? This is a whole note 2023 on the bottom over there. But it ends up, you see the last word in the parentheses right before the bracket. Grumma means it's indirectly. The judge didn't cause this damage directly. He only indirectly caused it. He said it wasn't kosher. They said, what should I do with it? Feed it to the dogs. And then he said, no, it's kosher, but they already fed it to the dogs. Therefore, since he didn't do it, he's only a grumma. And he is retracting his din. He gave a judgment, and now he's taking back that judgment. He did do his part to retract, but the cow is gone, and he didn't do anything. He didn't get rid of the cow. So if you thought, before Ephraim was saying, oh, the guy had bad luck, and you're saying, oh, he had bad luck, and that's why it happened, I think this is even greater chiddush. We're saying the judge is potter because he's taking back his verdict. You're right, the thing is not there anymore. That's his problem. He caused it. But he's doing his part of recalling his verdict. And that is happening. And that therefore he's potter from paying because he didn't cause it to happen. Okay. Anything on that, Rabbi Ephraim, or you take that shot?
Just a question. Once the animal is already fed by the dog to the dogs, whether you return your decision, it's not going to return the animal.
You're right, 100%.
The loss already happened.
You're right, but what we're saying is he didn't cause the loss.
But he did because
no, he didn't. He didn't take it and feed it to the cows. He indirectly caused it. It was what's called a grumma, right? It's indirectly making it happen. He's not directly causing it.
Why is it indirect?
Because he didn't take the cow and feed it to the dogs. He just told him feed it to the dogs. He didn't take it and do it.
I hear you, but if he's a Dayan or a Talmid Chacham, he himself would never do it. His job is just to make a decision. Physically.
Very good. But now you're gonna see next. This segues into the next and third answer. To these two Mishnayot. So remember, we have one Mishnah that says you can retract the case, and one Mishnah says you can't retract the case, but rather the judge has to pay.
Okay.
So now comes Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda says, "Kan shenotol v'notan biyad. Kan sheloi notol v'notan biyad." It all depends. Chizda says it all depends if the judge took it with his own hands and gave it. The judge caused it to happen, then you cannot reverse it. But if the judge didn't cause it to happen, then you could retract the case. You could reverse it. It all depends if the judge did it. What means it? This is a simple case. We deal with more cases than the simple case. Reuben and Shimon, $50,000 between them, right? And they had an argument. And we, the judges, say, Reuben, you have to pay Shimon. But we don't just tell Reuben you have to pay Shimon. We take Reuben's money that he has with him and we give it to Shimon. So we cause it to happen. We give it to him, then we cannot go back. Once we did it with our own hands, the case stays, and rather we're going to have to pay. If we made a mistake, we have to pay out of our own pocket. That's the way Rav Chizda wants to learn. It depends. Kan shenotel v'notel biyad, kan shloi notel v'notel biyad. Now, the Gemara says, Bishlei machiyev et hazakai, kekon shenotel v'notel biyad. So, this fits well with the case when the judge declared the non-liable to be liable. When we said to me, I shouldn't owe the 50,000, Reuben shouldn't owe 50,000 to Shimon. And then we say, Reuben, pay him, and we made a mistake. We took the money from Reuben, we gave it to him, even though it was a mistake, right? Therefore, he cannot, cannot return it, because he took the money himself. How do you have a case where he takes it with his hands, well, we just say he doesn't have to pay? If we said, Reuben, you don't have to pay the money, we're not taking anything by hand. We just tell him you don't have to pay. There's nothing to move. There's nothing to touch. Nothing to move. There is no taking anything or transferring anything. So how do you have such a case? Right? The Mishnayot is going both ways. The Gemara says, "Kivan the Amr Potter Ato, Moshe Natal v'Natam b'Yado." Gemara says, no. Once you say you're Potter, once you tell the guy you're free from paying, it's as if you took it from his hand. Therefore, it cannot get reversed. Okay. So right now, the Gemara comes out with that in the case where I took the money and gave it, that's the case that you can't reverse it by my own money, my own hands. If I just merely said it, then you could reverse it, right? But when it comes to Potter, once you say you're Potter, it's as if you did it with your own hands. And therefore it can never get retracted. Gemara, based on that, the Gemara said, says, well, 1 second, how are you going to explain our Mishnah? Our Mishnah said you could always retract. You can always go back to the case. So everything makes sense in the case where you say Reuben owes $50,000 to Shimon, and Reuben goes ahead and pays it, but you, the judge, has never touched it. So now you can reverse this case. That makes sense. But when you told Reuben you don't have to pay, and you told him Paterata, you said once you say Paterata, then it's as if you took it with your own hands. So how can the Mishnah say that in this case you can also retract? You just told me when you say pater ata, it's as if you did it with your own hands, and therefore you cannot retract it. But our Mishnah said you could retract. The Gemara says, no. Our Mishnah is not talking about two cases. Talking about one case. We return the case where its return is a schus for one and a chova to the other. Meaning, don't read it that when you said not guilty, you can now turn him guilty. Rather, it's the case when we said you're guilty. You have to give $50,000. Now, we didn't touch it. We just told him. He gave the money. And now we can retract it. What happens? He gets the $50,000 back, so it's good for him. And for him, he lost the $50,000, so it's a chova for him. So it's one case, one person getting a chut, one person getting a chova. But you're right. If you said to the guy, pater ata, then it's as if you took it with your own hand, and you cannot retract that case. Gemara says, really. So how do I apply that new way of understanding the Mishnah when it comes to capital punishments? When it comes to capital punishments, we said machzirin l'schut. We can, if we had a guilty verdict and we want to change it to innocent, we could do that. But ain't machzirin l'chova. But we don't take the guy and say that if he is guilty, if he's innocent, we don't change him to guilty. But that's not the way you're saying to read it anymore. You're saying when it says l'chova, it means in the same case, one person is a chut and one person is chova. What type of case is this? Machzirin l'schut, we can return it l'schut. The guy is guilty, we can turn him l'schut. Zechut gredata, when he is pure acquittal, no one has a disadvantage. Ve'ein machzirin l'chova, and when it says by nefashot, machzirin l'chova, the way you're now translating these words, someone else's chova, it means l'chut shehi chova, that he's going free, but someone else is a chova, and therefore you don't make it. Therefore you don't what's it called? Take away the verdict, and you kill him still. So the way we're going to learn the Mishnah, the way they learn the Mishnah now, what chova means, a chova for one, and the chut for another means that here's this guy, he gave him a guilty verdict, right? Kill him. Then we come and say, oh, we have a chut for him to free him. But no. This chut that's going to free him is going to be a problem for someone else. So then don't free him, go ahead and kill him. That's the way we learn the Mishnah now, but based on the way they want to understand Pshat here. So the first question is, Chovata Deman. Who is this person, the other person that's saying it's bad for him? Don't kill him, it's bad for someone else. Who is this? It's not a question. Chovata de Goel Hadam. It's the relative. He killed somebody. This guy killed somebody, and the relative wants to see him dead. So if you don't kill him, he's going to get upset. One second. Because this guy's going to get upset if we don't kill him. So we're not going to kill him if we have proof that he didn't do it. You're saying even if you have proof, you don't go back and give him the chut because it's chovah for another? How does that make any sense at all? My ben. The cases there say ben, between and the either or. Doesn't say it's one case. Rather, kasha, this is difficult. Therefore, we're not going to learn it as being one case. It's really two cases. So where do you have the case that natal v'natam biyad, that he took it with his hand when he says a person is innocent? When you say a person is innocent, there's nothing to move. You're just telling him you don't have to pay. So where do you have that case? Ravina says, Amar keep going. Shayallah v'yadoy mashkoin u'natla mimeno. This is the case. Reuben and Shimon. Shimon is saying Reuben owes him $50,000. He comes to court. But Shimon has Reuben's money on him, and he wants to keep it. And the court says, no, Reuben doesn't have to pay. They take the money from Shimon, and they give it back to Reuben. So here's the case where we say Reuben is innocent, and he doesn't have to pay, but you're doing it with your hands because you're taking the money from Shimon and giving it back to Reuben. And therefore, they made a mistake in such a case when they did it with their hands. So therefore, they cannot retract it because they did it with their own hands. But if they just said to the guy, Potter, or they told him, return the money to him, they just said it, then they could retract the case because they just said it and they didn't cause it themselves. And the same thing to explain the part of the Mishnah that says Timet HaTahor. What's Timet HaTahor? When he said something was Tameh, when it really was Tahor. The Agab Besheretz. So what happened was they came with a question of status about this being Tameh V'Tahor. And it's supposed to be Tar, and he says it's Tameh. It's Tameh, the judge says, and he takes it and he touches Sheretz to it. Touches one of the struts and one of these stuff that calls Tameh. He touches that thing because it's Tameh, here it is. So he calls it with his own hand. Therefore, he cannot retract it, he'll have to pay. Tier Tatameh. Or if he says, this is Tahar, and I'll prove you it's Tahar. And he goes into Truma and he starts mixing it inside the Truma. Touches all the Truma with it. And then he figures out it's actually Tameh. Now he calls all the Truma to get damaged. Shirivin be Pirotav. He mixes it with some of the Tahar fruit. And he causes the damage with his own hand. Therefore, he cannot get it retracted, and rather he'll have to pay for those damages. So, in the end of the day, we have three answers to this stira, this contradiction between two Mishnayot. Our Mishnah here that said you can retract all monetary cases, and we have a Mishnah Bechorot that says you cannot retract monetary cases. Our first answer, to review, our first answer was Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Nachman. Their answer was, it depends. If it was a expert judge or a non-expert judge, meaning if the retraction is being done by an expert judge, then yes, it can be retracted and redone and retried. But if it's not going to be done by someone who's greater, then there is no retraction. And then rather, if it's a non-expert judge, he'll have to pay. And if it's an expert judge, he's free because he's an expert judge, but he cannot retry it unless you have someone who's more expert in years and in wisdom. That was Rabbi Nachman and Rabbi Yosef. Rav Sheshet gave an answer. He said it all depends if they made a mistake in the clear halacha versus a mistake in weighing of the opinions. If it's a mistake in clear halacha, then you could retract the case and retry the case. And if it was a mistake in weighing of the opinions, then the verdict stands, and you would have to pay the damages. And the third explanation was Reb Hizdah. And Hizdah's explanation was, it all depends if the judges did it with his hands or he didn't do it with his hands. If he did it with his hands, then that's it. You cannot retract the case. The verdict stands, and if he made a mistake, he'll have to pay from his own money. If he's not a mumchel rabbim, right? If he's an expert, he doesn't have to pay back. And if he did it with his own hand, then he'll have to pay back. And if he didn't do it with his own hands, then he could retry the case and take back the verdict and do what he needs to get done. And those are the three ways of understanding these two Mishnayot in summary. Any questions at this point? Good. All right.